Whoops. I put up the sponsor slide at the beginning of the show. Oh, well, we'll just be a little backwards tonight. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Small Biz Highlight. My name is Tiffany Roman. If this is the first time you're joining us, welcome, as my son would say. Thank you so much for joining us. Small Biz Highlight started just over 2 years ago with the hope of introducing you to the people behind a small business, their products and services, and diving into how COVID affected them directly from, the source, not just what somebody else might have said. So it's been a very educational experience. I have enjoyed every minute of it and looking forward to another year of interviews. Anyway, so tonight's show is sponsored by the Small Biz Highlight app, which just debuted, the Small Biz Highlight community, my own networking community within the app. It's awesome. I have a community founders membership that is open until May 31st. If you want to take advantage of that and learn the details, hit me up. All right. We are live with StreamYard. If you are catching us live on Facebook, welcome. To get Facebook and StreamYard to talk to each other, I would need you to just go to StreamYard.com/Facebook. And done. What that does is just give us the opportunity to not only see comments you might leave behind for us, but also your name and your face or your profile picture. Because, we like to see who's talking to us, not just what you have to say. This year, I have promoting the hashtag 2020U to help go towards the goal of more acceptance, more love, and more faith in yourself. It has been a journey for me so far this year, and I have certainly been learning a lot about myself through the process, and I've been selfishly using all of you as my accountability partner. Feel free to do the same with me, or, join in the movement with a family member, a friend, what have you. You would not believe the things you learn about yourself when you are trying to walk this journey of more self-acceptance, more love and faith in yourself. Whew. It's something else, let me tell you. All right, so tonight, guys, I'm so excited. Tonight, we have a little bit different of a show for you tonight because, I tried to amp up your interest in the show by yelling we're going to be talking about waffles, not the food. Sorry, I lied, sort of. But it's a different type of waffles I cannot wait to introduce you to. So, check this out. Let me bring my guest on, which, by the way, my guest is super fancy. Dr. Katie Nall, right? Is that how you say your last name?
Yeah, you got it.
I am notorious for forgetting to ask how to say somebody's name before going live, and I always just hope for the best.
You did great. You did great.
It's so great to see you. How are you doing this evening?
Oh, Tiffany, I am flying high because the Blue Angels were just in town last weekend. And so we had all of these jets going out. And it was funny because the people who did not know the Blue Angels were scheduled to come into town wondered if the Russians were invading. It was hysterical.
Oh, goodness. I'm so jealous. It's been a long time since I've seen the Blue Angels fly. One of these days I got to go back. It's so great.
What a show. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, well, speaking of shows, I always love to start mine with a simple question. Sometimes it trips people up, actually. It gets them thinking like, whoa, how am I supposed to answer this? So I really love how different people take it. It's so great. So, Dr. Katie, who are you?
Yes, Tiffany, I can see how that would trip people up. So I am, like your listening audience, many different people. I am married to a very unfortunate gentleman. This summer we'll be celebrating our 49th wedding anniversary, and we were supposed to get a divorce after 2 years, and it just never worked out. I am the mother of 3 grown children who are all independent, which I'm very excited about, and the grandmother of 5 adorables. I call them my 5 legal granddaughters because the first letter of their name spell out the word legal. And we live in Florida, hence the color of my room. And professionally, I am a lot of different people. My PhD is in mathematics education, so math is my passion. I love math. Along the way of loving math and finding out that I'm not in the majority, and I wanted to help others love math too, I became a master trainer in something called emotional freedom technique, also called EFT or tapping, and that's what my first TEDx talk was about. I also became a Qigong instructor, so Saturday was World Qigong Day, so I was able to lead about 30 or 35 people in the park through different Qigong. So I'm all about health, and I'm all about thinking. One of the reasons why I'm all about health is one of my life goals is to be able to dance at every one of the 5 granddaughters' weddings, and the youngest one is not quite 2. So that means I have to stay alive for another 30 years. I have to stay healthy for another 30 years, and I have to learn how to dance in 30 years.
I think we got this.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so a lot to dive into there. Okay, so I love your personality. Your sense of humor is awesome. We were supposed to be divorced after 2 years, and it didn't work out. That's awesome.
It just didn't work
gosh.
out. Yeah.
Oh man, but math is not everybody's favorite subject. I happen to be one of those that really loved algebra, and I think it had more to do with my teacher.
Yes.
Because she broke it down. I'm a very systematic person. I need to know the steps, and algebra was that for me.
Right.
Geometry, nope, I could not do it. And it's crazy because then you meet people who are the exact opposites. There'll be people who love geometry and absolutely hate algebra. It's so crazy how that is. But math has been a big part of my life. My stepdad's an accountant. Well, he used to be an accountant. So my stepdad was one of those that you could speak this long sentence, this long problem out in the open, and he would be blah, 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 3. I'm like, what? How did you do that? And I'm doing it on a calculator while I'm telling him oh God, it's awesome. Oh gosh. So I don't know if you're to that level where you can do it in your head like that, but I mean, how did you learn that you loved math of all things?
I was raised attending a Catholic school during, this is really going to date me, during President Kennedy's. And so we were going to the moon and back. And so at my school, they were teaching really college level math, which everybody can learn. I was learning Boolean algebra. I was learning so much more than just algebra and geometry. And by the way, most any problem can be solved either algebraically or geometrically. And you're right, people are either one or the other. And there's a great free program out there called I think it's algebrometry or geometry. I don't know, but it's a combination of geometry and algebra. And you can take any equation and it will create the graph, or you can give it any graph and it will create the equation. So it goes back and forth, which is really awesome. But because I was exposed to so much math, and we also moved a lot when I was growing up, I attended 12 different schools in 5 different states. So as I was moving from place to place, I missed out on a lot of history. I wasn't quite sure about reading, but the one constant was math. So math was constant everywhere. So when it was time for me to go to college, and they said, "What do you want to study?" And I'm like, "Oh, I didn't know I was supposed to focus, right?" And I said, "Well, I'm not really fond of writing papers, and I'm not good at labs." And they said, "Great, we're going to sign you up for math." And I said, "Okay." So I ended up getting my undergraduate degree in math and computer science from San Francisco State University. And then my husband at the time, who's still the same husband, can't get out and get rid of this guy. We moved to Georgia, and I earned my master's in statistics and computer science from the University of Georgia. And then in my mid 50s, decided that I wanted to go back and accomplish one of my life goals, which was to earn my PhD. So while I was working full time, it took me 4 years to complete my PhD in math education. And that's where I found that students have this fear and this anxiety about math, and I wanted to help them. So I saw it as a word problem. And as a word problem, I couldn't find any answers. There was nothing out there to help students overcome fear and anxiety about math and tests. So because I saw it as a word problem, I just pulled out what I needed, right? Which was, how do you solve fear and anxiety? And in doing that, in 2010, I found Nick Ortner's 10-day tapping summit. I watched all 10 days, bought the book, bought the DVD, taught myself. I was working at a college at a time in an administrative role, and there was a room full of students who were ready to graduate, but they needed one class. And it was a class they'd been trying to avoid, and that was math. And I'm like, oh, you saved the best for last. And that's not the way they looked at it at all. So I said, okay, I have no idea if this is going to work or not, because every example I'd seen of emotional freedom technique and tapping had been about overcoming financial blocks, relationships, addictions. Nobody was mentioning math or test taking. So I'm like, I have no idea if this is going to work or not. Let's try it. And so one by one, we tried it, and I got them in my office, and I'm like, okay, just follow me. And I had no idea what I was doing, right? And it was working, it started working. And so I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. Maybe I should get trained, because I don't have any idea of what I'm doing, Tiffany. I mean, I didn't know anything, right? So I went back and I got training in level 1, level 2, level 3. I got training in trauma, which turns out to be pretty important, and quantum, which is past lives. That's a whole nother talk. And then I became a supervisor, a mentor, and now I can accomplish my goal of being a trainer, of training others in this amazing technique. So it took me 4 years working full time to earn my PhD in math education. It took me 8 years working full time to become a master trainer in emotional freedom technique. Yeah.
Now, I mentioned waffles earlier and disappointed a whole bunch of people probably, because we are definitely not talking about food, guys. I promise. I'm sorry.
No.
But we are talking about waffles in the sense of worries, anxiety, fear, frustration, lethargy, exhaustion, and stress.
Wow. I'm so impressed you got all that.
Yes. I practiced a lot before going live.
That was great. No. That was good.
So there's so much in that acronym, which acronyms are like a whole new way of speaking in the military. All we speak are acronyms. When I get out of the military, I don't know how I'm going to function speaking regular English. So I'm just going to add waffles to my repertoire. No, but it's so much involved there, and so many different, things that a lot of us struggle with daily, on the regular. And I know you mentioned that it's called tapping. What exactly do you mean by tapping?
Tapping is emotional freedom technique, or EFT. It was developed by electrical engineer Gary Craig. He graduated from Stanford University. He was watching other medical doctors, chiropractors, and psychologists who were trying to find ways to help people overcome their waffles. And they kind of found their way into traditional Chinese medicine. Traditional Chinese medicine believes that there are meridians or energy pathways running through our bodies. And Gary Craig looked at it and said, you know what? Those meridians look a lot like electrical circuits. And I think that if we tap on certain points of our body, that we are going to hit 96 to 98% of those electrical circuits. So for people who are looking to clear the negative out of their body, which is kind of a strange concept, because I don't know about you, Tiffany, but all my life I've been told to think positive, right? And if you think positive, everything's going to be great. And I thought positive. It's so easy, so easy.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you a short story. When I found out about this and I had my first victim volunteer, my husband, I said, come here, honey, sit down. I want to show you something. And he kind of rolled his eyes in the back of the head and said, what is it now? You know, because he's been with me for way too long. And I said, I just want you to sit here and tell me about all the negative feelings that you've had this week. And he looked at me and he gave me that side eye, Tiffany. He was like, for all these years, you've been telling me to be positive, and now you want me to be negative? And I said, well, you know what? That positive isn't working. We're going to try something new. He was more than, yeah, that's exactly what he said. I feel like this is a trap, and he was more than hesitant. And I'm like, well, okay. So he didn't want to give me any of his negative, but I live with the guy. I knew all the negative that he'd been experiencing that week, right? So I said, just follow me. And so I had him tap on these 8 points, and I'll go through them in a minute. And as we tapped on these 8 points, he got finished, put his hands on his hips, stood up and said, well, that was a waste of my time, and left. But Tiffany, let me tell you what happened the next day. So the next day he came home and I said, well, how was work? And he said, it was great. Now, I seldom hear him say that work was great. So I asked him more questions. I said, well, what about that client that you were having trouble with? He said, oh, we talked it out and everything's fine. Really? I said, well, I know you were having an issue with your computer. How did that get resolved? He's like, oh, I called the computer company and they sent somebody out. Everything's fine. No frustration? No, it's fine. Well, I know you were concerned about that vendor over there that, you felt like they owed you money. He said, oh, they called me, took care of everything. Everything's fine. Now, I had not heard 3 fines in a row from this man in decades. And so I looked at him and I said, so you don't really think that tapping works, do you? And he said, no, not at all.
You didn't see the correlation between the two. There's no way that it happened because of that.
Not at all. And that's the funniest thing. For 12 years, I've been working with clients all over the world. And you mentioned COVID. And as it turned out, there were a lot of people during COVID that I worked with. And the most common result that I get from people when they're finished with a session, a 1-hour session, is, wow, I feel lighter. Now, nobody walks in here and says, I'm feeling pretty heavy. But they do. They feel it's that oppressiveness, that heaviness of carrying all that negative energy, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So would you like to try it?
Yes. Now, first, let's take a quick break so I can show off my sponsor's little commercial. And after that, I guess I'm going to be tapping. Bear with me, people.
Are you tired of missed business opportunities because you don't have the marketing tools that big companies do? Do you want to generate more sales with less effort or technical knowledge? Text for More is a digital marketing solution that is both your digital brochure and web presence that connects you directly to your customers. Best of all, Text for More is proven to deliver results. In fact, some of our clients have seen their monthly revenue increase by as much as 5 times in the first couple of months. To get started today, text the keyword MORE to 317-342-8114 and see how we can assist you. Text for More. Next generation brochures for the digital age.
All right. So before we took a quick break for commercial, we were talking to Dr. Katie here and about her grumpy husband. Talking about negative feelings, things that bring us down on the regular, not just, abnormal stuff. We're tired, something stressed us out during the day, what have you. And she is going to teach me all about tapping certain areas that then it's supposed to help me with said situation. I'm a little nervous, but we'll see how this goes. How do I tap, Dr. Katie?
Well, I really, first of all, I appreciate you, Tiffany, you being a good sport about this. And And the fact that you're nervous, we can actually tap on the fact that you're nervous about tapping. When I have new clients, it's usually the first thing we do is I ask, what do you think about this whole process? And then we tap on how they feel about it, and they're usually surprised at the outcome. So would you like to tap on that?
Sure.
That's a great place to start. So I'm going to ask you a whole bunch of questions, then I'm going to show you where we're going to tap and without the words, and then we're going to add words to it. Is that okay?
Okay. Let's do it.
Great. So when you think about, not knowing about tapping or what's going to happen, and you feel this nervousness from the top of your head to the bottom of your toes, where do you feel the nervous in your body?
My stomach.
Okay. And from 0 to 10, where 0 is like, no big deal. She seems like she'd be trustworthy. And 10 is the most nervous you've been in your entire life. How nervous do you feel about doing the tapping from 0 to 10?
Probably like 1.
Oh,
I'm not horribly nervous.
Okay. And is this a true statement? Right here, right now, I feel safe.
Yes.
Okay. For those of you in the listening audience, if that is not a true statement, replace it with a statement that is true, such as, right here, right now, I accept my emotions. Right here, right now, I hope to feel safe. Right here, right now, I know things will be better. So replace it, because what happens, Tiffany, is I'm going to ask you to repeat words, but all the words have to be true for you, not for me, but they have to be your words. Which brings me to the next question, is if I ask you to repeat something and you go, that's not really true, or I would have said it differently, would you state it in your own words for me when I ask you to repeat it?
Sure.
Okay, great. So let's start off with me showing you where we're going to tap, and then we'll add the words. How's that sound?
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. So you can use either hand, but on one hand, have one hand, your palm facing you, and between your wrist and your little finger, use your 4 fingers of your other hand and tap right there. There you go, you got it. And what we're going to do is we're going to repeat a sentence. We'll say it 3 times here before we go to the next spot. The next spot, Tiffany, is on the top of your heads, and you can use your right hand or your left hand or both, whichever is comfortable, doesn't matter. And then the next spot, I'm warning you, I'm coming in for a close-up, is above the nose, right on the edge of the eyebrow. Above the nose, right on the edge of the eyebrow. There you go, you got it. And again, you can use your right hand or your left hand or both, it doesn't matter. Then we move to your temple, between your edge of your eye and your hairline. Again, your right hand or your left hand or both on either side, doesn't matter. Next spot is where I keep my bags for a quick getaway, and that's under the eye.
You have to take my glasses off for this one.
Under the eye. And then our next spot is under our nose, above our lip, tapping right there. And then under the lip, above the chin. And then our next spot is cross your wrist and go right on your collarbone. And breathe while you're there. Turns out, I've got it on good authority that breathing turns out to be an important piece of this. And then the last spot, Tiffany, is about 4 inches under your arm on your ribs. Give your ribs a good thumping. And again, you can do one side or the other, or give yourself a hug, or come in from the side, whatever works best. And then we blow all our air out. So those are the spots we're going to tap. Now we're going to add words, okay? Okay, so again, with your hand, the palm facing you, and on the side, tapping on the side of the hand, and repeat after me and say, even though I'm not really sure about this.
I'm not really sure about this.
I'm feeling a little nervous in my stomach.
I'm feeling a little nervous in my stomach.
I'm wondering what's going to happen.
I wonder what's going to happen.
Right here, right now, I feel safe.
Right here, right now, I feel safe.
Even though
I
feel a little nervous in my stomach.
I feel a little nervous in my stomach.
Because this is the first time I've ever done this. Right here, right now, I feel safe.
Right here, right now, I feel safe.
Even though I don't know what to expect.
I don't know what to expect.
And it makes me feel nervous in my stomach.
And it makes me feel nervous in my stomach.
Right here, right now, I feel safe.
Right here, right now, I feel safe.
And then top of your head, tap and say, there's nervousness in my stomach.
There's nervousness in my stomach.
And then on the edge of your eyebrow, right above your nose, there's nervousness in my stomach.
There's nervousness in my stomach.
On the side of the eye and the temple, this nervousness in my stomach.
Oh, there's nervousness in my stomach. Not as much though. Seems to like go. It's not as much nervousness in my stomach, if that makes sense.
Under the eye, there's not as much nervousness in my stomach now.
There is not as much nervousness in my stomach.
Under the nose, just a little bit of nervousness in my stomach.
Just a little bit nervousness in my stomach.
Could this stuff be working?
What is she doing to me?
What's she doing to me? There's just a little bit of nervousness left in my stomach.
Just a little bit nervousness left in my stomach.
Just the smallest amount of nervousness left in my stomach.
Just the smallest amount of nervousness in my stomach.
And then blow it all out. If you have some water, you can take a sip of water.
Oh, I don't have any water. I really got to get better at that too.
That's okay. To me. So, Tiffany, when you think about tapping from 0 to 10, the nervousness is where?
Nowhere now.
I work with a lot of small business people, people who have to make cold calls, people who are worried about making payroll, people who are wondering about sponsorships, wondering how to attract clients. And it turns out there's actually scientific evidence that when we're stressed, our cortisol level goes up, our adrenal level goes up. And there's scientific proof that tapping will reduce your cortisol level, will reduce your thyroids and your adrenals, and allow you to think clearer, to be able to make decisions better. I've worked with a number of small business people to help them be able to make better decisions, because you can't make good decisions when you're stressed, right?
No, you cannot. I'm wondering why I didn't learn about this sooner. Before. Now I'm not so bad. Before going live, I take a deep breath and I go. But when I first started, I was doing Lamaze before hitting record. I was like deep breaths. I was like shaking in my boots. It was horrible. It was completely out of my comfort zone. I was just getting out of this hermit lifestyle that I made for myself. After being diagnosed with postpartum depression and finally trying to put myself out there a little bit more, help out the small businesses, and in turn try to like heal a little bit. And the show has definitely done that for me. But tapping would have helped the Lamaze live it.
You can still use tapping. And if you mentioned you have a small child?
I have two. I have a 7-year-old and a 6-year-old, well, soon to be 6-year-old.
So I use tapping on my granddaughters, and it is incredibly effective. I had one granddaughter when she was about 2 or 3, could not stand loud noises. They had to get her out of the house to be able to vacuum. Well, potty training her in public was a disaster. We had to have a bucket brigade to get her in the potty, to get her out, wash her hands, and get her out before we could flush the toilet. And so I said, this is ridiculous. And I checked with her parents, and I said, can we tap on her? And say, I hate loud noises. I hate loud noises. And boom, she was there at the Blue Angels this weekend to watch them, and that was very, very loud. I have another story of when another granddaughter was about 9 months old, and everybody was visiting, and there was a lot of commotion. And you know how babies get overstimulated?
Yes.
She was so overstimulated. She couldn't eat. She couldn't sleep. She couldn't even cry. She was just screaming, and nothing would calm her down. So I checked with everybody. Her other grandmother was holding her and trying to calm her down, and nothing was happening. I said, is it okay if I tap on her? And they said, yeah. So I started tapping. I didn't even say any words. I just started tapping. I didn't get to hear on her before she knocked herself out and she was asleep like that. It's amazing stuff. amazing. And the more research you do, the more you find. Now, even the Veterans Administration has approved tapping for PTSD. They have Gary Craig, the originator, went to the Veterans Hospital where there were Vietnam vets who had been there for 40 years, hospitalized and drugged for 40 years. And the story goes that a week of tapping, they were released without drugs and they were fine.
Oh, wow.
Wow, it's right.
Oh, wow.
It's powerful, powerful stuff.
Ooh. Man, well, if you were just catching us, you totally missed it. No. Dr. Katie has been an absolute pleasure to speak with. She has such a great personality, lots of fun, but also a lot of knowledge. She's super smart, math, first of all, come on now. But then she's also, all about helping people be their healthiest selves possible. And through the simplest form that I can think of, tapping. And I know it sounds silly for those of you just checking in, but that's the beauty of replays. Rewind and figure out what the heck we're talking about when I'm talking about tapping. She even walked me through it herself. So for those of you on podcast listening in, thank you, first of all. But second of all, check us out on smallbizhighlight.com. Find our latest interview with Dr. Katie, the video, and, watch it yourself. See what she had me do. Try it out for yourself and see, if it makes you feel a little bit different. You never know. You may be ailing from something that nobody can tell you how to fix, and then now all of a sudden tapping comes into your life. I don't think there's anything wrong with a healthy balance of actual medical assistance and holistic health, which is what I feel like this falls under and whatnot. Because, I think it's just a healthy balance. I think it's like the universe calling itself a healthy balance. But Dr. Katie, thank you so much for being here. This was so much fun. I cannot wait to try it on my kids. Maybe that'll make them fall asleep a lot easier at night. No.
Well, I can also show you some cute, some Qigong things you could do to help them sleep as well.
Oh, awesome. See, benefits of hosting shows, guys. I'm just saying. But anyway, I will leave you all for the evening. Thank you again for being here. Don't forget to check out Small Biz Highlight everywhere. Literally everywhere. Just search Small Biz Highlight. Google it. Whatever you use as your search engine, and everything Small Biz Highlight will come up immediately for you. But download the app. Check out our new community. It's absolutely free to join for small business owners. And yes, as always, I will leave you with a friendly reminder to put your community first. We do that by shopping small and supporting local businesses. Good night, everyone.